Hello everyone, my name is John Savis and I'm from IFA. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to CG Salamander and Samidha Gunjal. CG Salamander is a writer, editor and comic journalist who has published over 30 comics in India and abroad. Salamander divides his time between Chennai and the Netherlands. Salamander has collaborated with the illustrator Samidha Gunjal, who is based in Ahmednagar, and they have created a non-fiction in 25 panels on the evolution of the internet in India. So, Salman, would you like to take us through the work?
Yeah, sure. Would you like us to share a screen or maybe just show you
Which,
pictures of?
whichever way.
So this is the comic that Samida and I have worked on. And so we've just did a dummy print and made it the accordion format essentially. So I'm just going to move a little back for this. And yeah, so this is kind of what we were working on. And I'm just going to put this aside now. Um, so essentially, what we wanted to do was we wanted to produce this nonfiction comic that sort of documented India's journey or India's internet journey over the last 25 years. And we wanted to make it interesting and not as dry. So we have sort of mixed two narratives, one fictional narrative and the non-fictional narrative. And yeah, so a large part of the challenge was integrating the two narratives among, with each other. And yeah.
Okay. So, my question to Samita is what has been the process like, the designing and the decision to make an accordion book format? What inspired you to make an accordion book kind of design?
So when Andrew came up with the story, the script, there were two streams. One was fictional and one was non-fictional, and it was like really tough for me because I have always worked on non-fiction, so it was a bit tough to crack the style and what exactly should be the final visuals. So it took me a while, but after discussing, we decided to go with a retro style, like a bit retro look, like a album where we used to stick photographs in that album. So what we did, we like first the non-fiction narrative is as a photograph, and the fiction part is as a background. The evolution of internet as a background, and
it's the one second, sorry, it's the other way around. The non-fiction is the background.
So what we did, there are two stories going in parallel. One is Andrew, you want to talk about the story?
No, you should just go on with the process. I think that's more fascinating.
Yeah, so there is one story which is about this boy who is born along with internet. Like both are born in same time, and what happens in the boy's story and what happens in internet story goes along. Like, so it's like an album. When you're looking at it, it feels as if you're looking at an album, but it's telling two stories at a time, and they're interconnected. So how the boy's life, his family life, is affected by internet and vice versa. So so that's the process, like how I came up with visual. Pardon?
Yeah, as for methods of making the graphics, what is the methods that you follow? Is it traditional methods, pen and coloring, or is it all digital with a Wacom pen and all that? Because it's better for the topic, which is internet and digital.
Yeah, so when I was ideating, I did pencil drawn thumbnails, like a storyboard. But so basically, we tried many formats, but we were not convinced with any of those. So when we came up with this album style, Then I did the final drawings digitally, like using iPad and Procreate. So final output, the final drawings are done digitally, but the process started in hand-drawn way.
Okay. So my question to Salamander is, as you know, these days webcomic has become very powerful form. But at the same time, the traditional comic form is what really carries the value of comic as a form because it allows timelessness in it. Because webcomic, when it has interactivity in it, then the one element of comic, which is that of simultaneity of different panels, that disappears. So even in the accordion form also, we are seeing panel by panel. Rather simultaneity of different panels together in one page. That aspect is. So have you missed it as a comics creator, or are you seeing a new potential in this panel by panel unfolding?
So I think it's on a case by case basis because I think another comic that Samida and I are working on right now, it's uses like a very lino cut design, and that's what Samida is actually known for. Where we actually go panel by panel, and it's excruciatingly intense work. And with the digital format, as you rightly mentioned, you kind of lose out on that because I don't think we have a digital medium or a software that brings us even close to, the physical experience of actually like reading a comic and flipping through it. There are a lot of softwares that are trying, but it isn't quite there yet. And I think in this particular comic, we had to take it one step at a time. And also the accordion format because we wanted it to seem like a photo album. So with one big background and then one photograph like sort of superimposed on top of it. And when you're looking at photos through a photo album, you sort of take your time with it and then move on to the next one and next one. And since it flips through 25 panels and covers 25 years, we needed to slow it down. So which is why we sort of opted for this sort of an approach. But yeah, just to finally like round off that question, I'm looking forward to a day when the digital medium sort of catches up with its limitations and we can say explore to comics that are motion graphics or more interactive, because that would be lovely.
In that case, it goes beyond the comic, becomes something else, it becomes animation.
Yeah.
So one thing that is very unique to comic is the printed form. So would you like to say something about the printing decisions that you have made, like whether it's digital or offset, how many print runs that you are planning, how do you like to distribute them?
So this was all summed up. So right now, I think we just took a couple of prints. And ideally, back when things were normal and you would have like these fairs or you would have like the Indie Comics Fest, and those were actual legitimate avenues where you could sell out and exhaust a print run. But I think the pandemic has sort of put us in a strange spot where just relying on online sales for a comic, because especially one like this, which is very tactile, um, is so I think we were definitely talking about going into a larger print run, but we were talking about doing it when everything comes back to normal, and do a small. I mean, by larger, I mean small offset print run of a few hundred copies.
And would you like to say something about the fiction and non-fiction aspect of writing? So since you have published more than 30 comics, how do you go about writing non-fiction in relation to?
So I think a lot of my commissions have been through nonfiction, and also I think over the years I've steadily just been working on one nonfiction comic, and the way I go about it is that I focus on one particular story, and then kind of just go into that over the course of say 3 or 4 months, and this has sort of given me the the ability to look at craft and skill and hone my writing. And I think Samida and I have also collaborated many times on fiction and non-fictional work. And weirdly enough, I think my first fiction comic is in the process is awaiting publication, or I'm about to, in the process of signing a deal with a major publisher for it. And I find it very strange that because it feels like I've done a lot of fiction work, which I have, but I just realized that none of it is published. And it's the same with Samida. Actually, no, Samida's published way more than me in the fiction realm. So,
And taking the question of non-fiction forward, Indian comics and graphic novel has a lot of emphasis on the non-fiction, like the two series that came out, which were edited by Vaidyanathan and Vidyanath. So one thing about comics in India is that it is extremely political. Like we look at the work of Arjit Sen or Ishituri Ghosh and the works by web comics artists like Daman Kape. So in doing this work on 25 years of internet India, what were there any political concerns that you had addressed as a writer?
yes, and I think it comes towards the end, towards the last 3 or 4 panels where we talk about. I would just briefly touch upon net neutrality and also touch upon this environment of skittishness where everyone is a little afraid of what they can say and what they can't say. We haven't touched on it greatly, but we have addressed it in the past 3 or 4 panels, basically.
That's the invitation for everyone to check out it on Salamander's page, Salamander's website. The link is there in IFA website. And I would like to ask the last question to Samida, which is a lighter question. Would you like to reflect on the color concept or the design decisions that you made or the look of the pages?
Yeah. So when we finalized on the decision to make it album style, the photograph, the one story which is into photograph. So I decided to make it look like a vintage photo, like it's from old album to the present time. So the one story is in the form of photograph, which is colored, but it has a vintage look, and it's stuck on this background using sellotape. Which if you look at the each panel, you can find out the sellotape kind of thing, like the can you see this? So there are sellotapes. So to make it like look very like it was challenged to make it look like a handmade album, but yeah, the sellotape works. I think sellotape works better. And about the background, I decided to make it into a pencil lines, like the texture. If you look at the texture, it's very it's a pencil brush I have used to draw it, to make it look very hand drawn. And about the color combination, when we were discussing and when I was doing research about all this events, one thing I observed that when we look at the internet like posts, or when we search about internet, it's very blue. Like for some reason, first Internet Explorer logo was blue, and then if you relate to Facebook, that is also blue. So even Orkut, so all these like mail
Also,
sources,
Zoom that you're
yeah,
using now.
even FaceTime, and then what was previously, what was that? So everything, I don't know what is the link behind that, but they are all blue. Like so, then I told Andrew that this is what my observation is. So what do you think if I make it like all blue? So when you look at it, it's blue, and then there is stark contrast, and then there is second story which uh, which comes out properly, like, yeah.
So there's also a lot of detailing and like a really different style that Samdha has used for the background. And I like the contrast between a heavier detail but lesser color for the background, and the inverse of that, which is fewer details but more color and liveliness to the photographs in the Polaroid form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
This is the
very,
good thing about comics. You can say something nice about the illustrator's work, and then the illustrator will say something nice about your work, and then you'll just end up,
wonderful.
sounding humble-ish also at the same time.
Actually, many decisions like happened very spontaneous, like while discussing the ideas, and how to because there was a stage where I was stuck, and I was like, no, I'm not convinced with like the story and what to draw. But then we had a brief, like we had a long discussion, and then we came up with this idea of doing it album style. And the final output, when my son saw this, he was like very intrigued by the visuals, like one photograph style and one story going in the background. So there are many things to explore. So when you're actually flipping through the pages, you actually want to like go back and forth and look at the details and see what is happening. So while reading, um, like when you're on next page, it also relates to and give you a curiosity about previous pages, so you can flip through them back and forth. So that is how this final output has come.
Thank
Like,
you. Thank you, Samita, for elaborating on the process and also for highlighting the importance of collaboration. Is also the power of internet that so many creative forces can be forged on this platform. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Salamander and Studio Ganesa.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. And once again, thank you for this grant. It was so much fun to get to work on this, especially at a time where everything was stuck. Like a lot of commercial work was actually halted. So thanks for having us.
Totally enjoyed the process.
Yeah, thank you.